Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan, he's a Corgi, and we're here for episode of Conversations with a Corgi on Derby Day 2018. And I'm wearing my Corgi dress because where else would you wear a Corgi dress but to the Kentucky Derby? Maybe some jumping competitions in Maryland. Anyway, it's a big day. It's also Cinco de Mayo. And, you know, chips and salsa, margaritas, we can't wait for that either. And actually, I don't eat hardly any of those things. And it's also Pride Day in downtown Northampton. So we have a very busy schedule of parties and things to do today. And Tristan, I think, is going to be sleeping at home through most of it and guarding the house because it's supposed to be like 75 today, which is a little hot and it's kind of loud. It's not really fun for him to be there. So he's been there some years, but I think he's staying home this year. So the Kentucky Derby is held annually in Louisville, Kentucky on the first Saturday in May. It is a long-standing tradition. It has been held at Churchill Downs since I knew this a minute ago. Since 1863, I think. Where'd it go? Oh. The track was named Churchill Downs in 1937, but before that it was held at Epsom Downs, or what was then Epsom Downs. So it's a long-standing race, and we celebrate it in Kentucky. No matter how you feel about the racing industry, and I have very mixed emotions about the racing industry, the Kentucky Derby is still a celebration of fashion and drinking. We have where is our Derby glass? It's here somewhere, Tristan. These glasses I have a lot of. They do one every year. You can buy them in Walgreens for like $1 all over the South and around Kentucky in particular. And they have the names of all the winners on the back. And they have little stars by those who won the Triple Crown. And for me, growing up in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of Triple Crown winners in those years. And so I have always thought that it was always possible. We had Secretariat in 73. We had Seattle Slew in 77. We had Affirmed in 78. And we had, what's this guy's name? Genuine Risk in 80. So we had a lot of Triple Crown winners right in that time when I was actively riding in high school and watching the Kentucky Derby, and didn't know yet about how bad the racing industry was, although certainly plenty of broken down racehorses came through the auctions in my area. So the track is 1.25 miles. It used to be 1.5 miles, which means the horses pass the grandstands twice. And actually the Weather Channel did an interesting thing this morning about how wind direction and heat and mud and wet, how that affects the horses and their ability to run. And of course it's part of the Triple Crown, which includes the Preakness held at Pimlico and the Belmont, which is held in Elmont, New York. And the Triple Crown wasn't, let's see, these 3 large purses were developed in 1919 by a group of people. And the first horse to win all 3 races was Sir Barton, a horse that not many people remember. And the term Triple Crown didn't come into common language until 11 years later. And then Gallant Fox in 1930 was the second horse to win all 3 races. And part of what's happened over the years is that the timing of the races has changed a little bit. They're a little later, they're a little closer together, they're whatever they are. That's really affecting the ability of a horse to win all 3 races and be at peak performance at such a young age during that time. But it's still a great time of fun and celebration, and the race has always featured many celebrities, including Queen Elizabeth, who came to the United States and went to the Derby in 2007. And there are many traditions, including the lovely hats that all the ladies wear, the mint julep, which consists of bourbon, mint, and sugar syrup, is a traditional beverage of the race, and of course Kentucky bourbon, that's where that comes from. And it is really just amazing, the crowds that squeeze into that area. And I know quite a few people who have been to the Derby, and in fact, a guy that I used to listen to in college, Dan Fogelberg, composed a song, Run for the Roses, which was released in 1980 for the race. And the race has been called the Run for the Roses because there is a huge garland of flowers that goes over the horse's shoulders. And I actually have a model horse somewhere here that has a garland of roses on him because he is, I think he's Seattle Slough Secretariat. Anyway, so the Kentucky Derby is a huge day of celebration, and you know, these are premier race horses, and they don't always suffer as much as some of the horses in the lower levels of racing. But like I said, it's a fun day. A lot of people, my mother doesn't watch any of the pre-race prep. She just watches them getting into the gate and says, oh, I like that one's name, or I like that one's white sock, and she always picks a winner. She just goes with her gut. She doesn't think about it, and that is what you need to do. Another interesting thing I found out about the Kentucky Derby is that Meriwether Lewis Clark, a grandson of the Lewis and Clark expedition, Clark went to England and visited Epsom in Surrey, where he saw the Derby. And you guys might remember me showing you my Derby edition queen in her blue dress. And the Derby in England has been running since 1780. And then Clark went to Paris, France in 1863, and a bunch of racing enthusiasts had developed the French Jockey Club and organized a Grand Prix de Paris at Longchamp, which at the time was the greatest race in France. So when he came home, he organized the Louisville Jockey Club for the purpose of raising money to build a racetrack just outside the city. And that is how we got Churchill Downs. And of course, then we had to have a Kentucky Derby to go with it. And the Epsom Derby was 1.5 miles. So the initial Kentucky Derby was 1.5 miles, and it became 1.25 miles in 1896. And I don't really know why. But it's always been a race for 3-year-old horses in this country. In England and other countries, horses run at much older ages, and so they are run sparingly when they're young so that they preserve their integrity and their joints so that they can have a long career racing. But that's not how we do it in this country. So, we don't have much to say about corgis today. We just have so much going on here. It's a big day of festivities, and thank God it's going to be 73 and sunny. We need that beautiful weather for all the things going on here today in lovely Northampton, Mass. Tristan, do you want to show off your Derby hat? He says, there I am. I'm ready for the Derby. He's probably going to be playing squeakies during the Derby. That's his usual time of day, to be throwing his squeakies and bringing them back to his mummy in the living room. We had our squeakies game interrupted yesterday by a visit from Coco, his girlfriend. And they sort of scampered around the house and the yard, but they really like to walk together. They were not so excited about just hanging out because they're both pretty active dogs. So that's the scoop from Conversations with a Corgi on Derby Day, Pride Day, and as well as Cinco de Mayo. So we will see you back here tomorrow at 9:30 for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. I am so hot with this corgi on my lap and a hat on. My glasses are fogging up. Couldn't be the corgi dress biscuit. No. Plant flowers today. That's what I should be doing, Danny. I need to get some flowers to plant. Thanks for joining us. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the beautiful weather, and we'll see you back tomorrow.